Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Focus to Evolve book chats for whatever month we're in, July. We'll call it the summer season book chat because Tana and I do these when we feel inspired to do them.
That's right.
That's right. Hey, Tana, we want to do our whole life like that, right?
That's exactly what my life is like these days, and I love it.
Man, and we're working hard to engineer that in because that is not given. Culture and society will not categorically give you that. You need to work on becoming aware and keep working on becoming aware, just like I do every day, just like Tana does and every human on earth. I got my Tibetan peace flags up here helping me out, reminding me from the
Always
high.
good to have those reminders.
Always good. I had a guy on a training the other day raise his hand and goes, "Is that a virtual background?" And I go, "No." That was funny. All right, so let's kick into gear here. It was funny. We always do a little pre-chat before these, and we started getting on some good topics. I was like, we're burning some good fuel. Let's hit this record button today. So here's the book. The book today is a book called Willpower. And I'm so inspired by this book. It wasn't super energetically inspiring for me. It's just that some of the wisdom drops and the information about willpower made me realize just how important it is to have awareness around willpower management for yourself, where it comes from, why it matters, all that stuff. And this book did a thorough job of outlining it. I can already kind of see a new training module developing in my little brain about how this is a serious lever for getting way more done in less time while maintaining your well-being, which is like what we're living for to help people to really attain. Willpower was written by a guy named Roy Baumeister, who I do not know. I've never heard the name, and a guy named John Tierney, who I have heard. I've actually watched, I think he has a TED Talk or something. Somehow I know his name, both who enjoy this subject and have put a lot of their life into this subject. And they spill it out in this book in wonderful fashion. I've got some bullet points to cover through here, but Tana, what are some high-level comments after reading the book Willpower?
Well, Roy and John, they claim that willpower can be fatigued from overuse, but can be strengthened over time with exercise. And improving willpower is the surest way to a better life, which that sentence is very like the surest way to a better life. That is a very profound and strong sentence. And honestly, it's kind of the thesis of the book. And I think they did a pretty good job of making their argument that willpower is a definite area that we need to be aware of and to focus on and get better at it in order to improve our circumstances on this planet. They said that most major problems center around the failure of self-control. So compulsive spending and borrowing, compulsive violence, underachieving at school, procrastination at work, alcohol and drug abuse, unhealthy diet, lack of exercise, chronic anxiety, explosive anger. All of that is due to a failure of self-control, which is a lack of willpower. And it's a fascinating book. It's one of my favorite books that we've done because it's not just theoretical, it's not just anecdotal. It also is like, let's look at the brain, let's look at human history. It's very fascinating and far-reaching. So this is definitely a favorite of mine.
Wow, I didn't see that coming. I'm so glad that you think that. I knew you were going to greatly appreciate the work.
Always. I greatly appreciate most books, honestly.
You do. That's why, honestly, when you said this is one of my favorites, I was like, whoa, this is interesting. Tana's got a favorite.
All right.
So, yes, success. Yeah, you nailed it there. Like, okay, everybody, myself, you, everybody's always probably wanting to know, how can I have a better life, a holistically successful life? We're not just talking about just money in the bank. We're talking about a holistically better life with more joy and more contentment and well-being and high accomplishment. I'm talking the full abundance package. And humans are a herd species. That's when we all of a sudden popped open into the world and wham, we are alpha on this particular planet anyways. And so why does willpower matter to that most important variable of working together in a tribe or a group or a society? It matters because, willpower, or I like they use impulse control, takes it working together takes a lot of that, because you know how it is. Sometimes you want to wring people's necks. Sometimes you want to hug them, and everything in between. And to be able to navigate that infinitely complex interrelationships between humans, it just requires awesome self-control.
Yeah.
And the way they kind of describe it in this book is that each morning you wake up with this proverbial battery full of willpower. And every single thing that hits your five senses, and including your own thoughts hitting you, are depleting that willpower little by little by little. So at the end of the day, that battery's low. The wife and the kids are probably getting the worst of me. That's just the way humans are. Right. At the beginning of the day, you're a little bit chirpier. I'm not talking about right out of bed. Some people are morning people. It depends on your chronotype. But I'm talking about once you get up and running in the morning, you can handle stuff. You've got that willpower, those walls up around you, and it's just strategy, purpose, and mission. And it's easy to be in a good mood. But as those willpower walls around you start to get chipped away and that battery drains, all of a sudden you're having an extra glass of alcohol, and that's going to hurt your sleep, and you're going to have a minor headache in the morning. And I'll go ahead and get that extra Twinkie. All these things that take us away from the life we would want is because of this willpower thing. So I'm right with you. Ultra important subject. Right. I took some notes too, just along the way, of some anecdotal stuff that is relevant, or at least it was for me. I did like his analogy about, you could take the world's greatest computer, but if you take its power source away, boom, thing is not worth a pile of beans. And so they have this section in the beginning about managing your glucose levels or your blood sugar levels. So here we are in a country where, the large companies, some of in the food industry have profitized our unhealth. Really, they really have. It's on every street corner. If you live in a depressed, financially suppressed area, it's you got McDonald's or some other fast food thing, and that's about your option. To get out to the Whole Foods, you're not getting out to Whole Foods. That's a really hard commute for someone who's already struggling. And there's not a Whole Foods where some fresh, organic, real green food, real stuff that came out of earth. It's just not really around. It's all packaged and sitting in a store. So this idea around getting your body the nutrient it needs, specifically your brain that it needs, it's like that superpower computer. You're pretty much diminishing its power cord by feeding it certain things. Sometimes it's a problem of just not having the education about how a human system works and the actual nutrient it needs. And sometimes it's just a matter of don't have access to it, and it's not super easy. And by the way, it's kind of expensive if you're trying to do all this organic, fresh everything. So this glucose level, blood sugar levels are a really big deal. If you're into watching what you eat, what you drink, all these things, it all matters for this willpower thing, which, as we just described, has everything to do with, keeping your focus to the strategic life that you want, the joy-filled life that you want. Right. The other thing you already had mentioned, we'd already talked on that battery thing. I touched on that. On this glucose monitoring thing, in all the biohacking circles that I'm all over and love doing that kind of stuff. It talked a lot about how intermittent fasting, it has its benefits, but it should not necessarily be a lifestyle because your glucose levels are played with, especially when you're first entering ketosis or before you've entered it. And your body hasn't really become efficient with breaking down the fats the way that they need for energy and the protein that it needs for energy. So for any of my friends out there who watch this one, I found that really interesting. It's like, wow, yeah, we need glucose. to have willpower. That's the power cord. And this idea of just cutting out all carbs and going all fat and high quality proteins, cool idea if you're trying to go into ketosis for certain things. But if you're going into your big presentation or trying to accomplish something at work, it's just not a really good idea. It was not in this book, but there was another, I think it's in the book Deviate by Bo Lotto. He talks about how chess masters, when they're in tournament days, they burn between 6,000 and 7,000 calories a day sitting in those chairs. Can you imagine? This little meatloaf in our skulls is a seriously, it's a calorie burning machine.
Right.
And if you're not giving it that healthy glucose it needs, you're going to underperform. Right. And willpower takes a lot of that. So I'm going to take a little pause. Any of that, did you want to kind of respond on anything? And if not, that's fine. I just want to give you more.
Yeah, I mean, the glucose and willpower, the correlation between those two is something that I found really fascinating in the book, because it's a biological way to improve yourself, which is really cool that they're kind of like diving down to, okay, what is it? How do we help this biologically? And glucose seems to be a really big factor. And I love how you just talked about the chess player and the number of calories, because according to the book, and I've heard this multiple places, the brain makes up about 2% of the body, but takes about 20% of your energy.
Yeah.
It's a huge sucker of the energy that we have, and therefore the willpower that we have throughout the day. And like my husband and I, we were driving one day and he was like, gosh, I feel so tired, but I've just been sitting in my desk all day. And I said, well, that's probably because you've been making a lot of decisions all day. I told him the story of, because I just listened to the book when we were having this conversation, and I told him the story that shows up in the book of Amanda Palmer, who she used to pose as a living statue out in streets. And we've all seen these people when we go into big cities. There's the person who's looking like Statue of Liberty for a number of hours or whatever. But she said that it was the ultimate Zen training ground, because she did it for 6 years and she only broke character twice, she said. And she'd work for 90 minutes, she'd take an hour break, and she'd work another 90 minutes. And then she'd call it a day, because after that, she only had the energy to basically get to her house and crawl into a tub and be numb for the rest of the day. And that was just 90 minutes of work, followed by a 1 hour rest, followed by 90 hours of work. And she was just standing still. And she was like, it wasn't so much the standing that was the issue, but it was just the many decisions that I had to keep going into my brain and making to continue to stand. So that bug on my face, do I swat it? And she already knew the answer is no, I can't swat it, but she still had to keep making those decisions, and people would come up and try to interact with her. She said that one time a person put their face in her crotch, literally, and she did not break character. But all of those just micro decisions were enough to completely deplete her for the day. She didn't move her body. She stood in one spot, but just like, don't react to the bug on your face. Don't react to the itch that you have on your hand. All of those were enough to completely diminish her willpower for the entire day, which I found to be completely fascinating, because I am also kind of a sitter who does most of my work at a computer. And I've done that throughout my entire adult life, basically. And you'd think, gosh, I'm so tired at the end of the day, but I hardly moved at all. But still, just making the decisions, it depletes your energy and your willpower as well. I just found that really fascinating.
Fascinating and relevant to everybody. Like the fly on her face is a great example. Your instinct is to swat it.
Right.
He talked about how basically deciding not to do your instinct, not to be authentic even to your belief system. So a lot of us just, we adjust ourselves to fit into culture, to make the boss happy, to make the customer happy. These are all monstrous willpower depleters.
Right.
And every time I say willpower depleter, just imagine me saying your success depleter. It's literally a 1-for-1 ratio according to these authors. And think of other urges you have. They talk about sexual urges and how we just deny those all day long because we're sexual creatures, whether you like it or not. And so all of these instincts that we just put on down and slap on down, it's like the fly on our face. We go home at the end of the day exhausted, and it's not necessarily because we just ran 9 miles. We all know almost nobody's doing that, but we're even more tired than if we would have. It's because of all these micro decisions of fitting in and being inauthentic and deflecting distractions from our actual strategy. So it's all this into a big bucket, and we're some tired folks at the end of the day as a result.
Right.
He'd mentioned, and also, along these lines of biology and instinct and stuff, I found it fascinating. He'd mentioned how much energy PMS takes and how much it takes away from a woman's willpower during those times. So he said, what you want to do, ladies, is find those healthy carbs, those fiber enriched full enzyme carbs, basically things that grow out of earth where humans haven't messed it up yet. If it has a package around it, get rid of it. But you do need to feed yourself more. There's just more energy burn, and it does actually literally take away from willpower from a woman during PMS. How interesting. Why don't we teach that to young women in the world? Just as they're managing through their lives,
that's
their work,
a whole
their
other
school.
conversation.
Isn't it? I know. I could almost feel that energy when I said that. I backed up a little bit. But it is. My wife's way into that as well, and helping to educate on the plethora of things that need to be way better educated on for young adult women. The Zeigarnik effect. This was an interesting word. It just means basically like tabs that are open in your brain. Like if you're thinking about 5 different things or doing 3 different things, this kind of feeds into the multitasking thing. And in our trainings with teams and companies and people, this is a big topic for us. We help people to stop paying cognitive switch tax by jumping from thing to thing to thing. And it's burning willpower and I actually know the mechanism of action behind that from a neurobiological standpoint, but it's a serious stuff, everybody. The Zeigarnik effect is a real thing. When your brain is turned on to something and your awareness goes there, it does not just go away because your attention gets pulled somewhere else or because you decide to jump somewhere else. If it is not decidedly closed with your own conscious mind, that tab stays open and it's burning more. It's making more beta amyloid happen, which is brain plaque, which causes brain fog. It's just burning the willpower battery to a crisp. And so the idea, like if I had to do my mic drop moment on this book right now, it is that you must learn to do the one thing at a time life. Period. End of sentence. No apologies. I'm not going to apologize. Don't even ask Tana.
Oh, I would.
No, you wouldn't. I know you wouldn't. So that is what this book is about. If the authors just came on and wrote one line and said, just believe us and do this, it would have been just do one thing at a time with deep presence. Everything else takes care of itself. So really cool stuff. Oh, and glucose. That would actually be the second. You gotta give the computer its fuel. And then other than that, with that fuel, do one thing at a time.
Right. Yeah, I noticed the Zeigarnik effect too. And I definitely put like 3 stars next to it because I was like, oh, this is definitely a focus to evolve thing to put in there, because people remember unfinished or interrupted tasks better than completed tasks. So that's why you're waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning with hyperventilating, because you forgot to send that thing to that client because your brain has been keeping that tab open all day. And the unconscious mind is asking the conscious mind to make a plan so it can stop thinking about the thing. And the system that we teach is definitely something that can help you to make that plan so you're not waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, because the Zeigarnik effect is making you wake up so you don't forget something that you found to be important during the day.
Yeah, and this is so important. I'm just going to turn this into a shameless plug for Focus to Evolve. in our trainings that we do, because the truth is 98 and 99% of all users of either Outlook or Google or Gmail, whatever you want to call it, they're not utilizing it in a way that can max out their joy in life and their ability to get things done in way less time and with way less stress. The way I look at it is those platforms, Outlook and Gmail, should be, they basically should be an executive secretary of yours.
Right.
A legitimate, real one, like a really
That's how we use it.
That is exactly how we use it. One that you would pay $120,000 for. And I'm not exaggerating. When you start utilizing full system of either of those platforms, it becomes an outsourced part of your brain. You get to use all of your brain for, you know, problem solving and building loving relationships with everyone around you. And you just you re-belong to yourself.
Right.
So that's the shameless plug. By the way, I'm always asked, which is the best one? Google or Outlook or Asana, and I always say, oh, I actually know that answer. Are you ready?
Yeah,
I do.
I've heard you say what the answer is, so I know.
Here's the right answer for anyone who's listening. The right answer actually is the one that you use properly. The one you use as it was designed to be used is the best one for you. So I categorically disagree with that question of which one's the best. This is not a time management problem we have. It's a self-management problem that we have. And we've got the trail out. It worked for our lives. It has worked for tens of thousands who have been through our trainings. And give us a ring if this is resonating with you. We can truly help. If you feel overwhelm, exhaustion, even depression from overload and email monster, we put that baby back in its cage. So there we go. That was
a great plug.
No, I'm thinking about taking that clip out and like throwing it somewhere. Let's do it.
I love it. And like always, we did not talk about everything in the book today, but I feel like that's a really good place to wrap it up. So check it out. I definitely enjoyed this book. And any final comments from you, Jason?
No, just thanks for tuning in. We'd love to hear from you. Appreciate your thoughts, Tana. Always appreciate your thoughts. And we'll see you next round.
Yep. Bye, everybody.